I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay. I've had nothing to live for. Look like nothing's gonna come my way. So
Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It
Force.
is very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
And a pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. The producer for our show tonight is the great one, the maestro himself, Mr. Craig Gibson. We're coming to you live via Love 97 FM. This is Tuesday, the 24th day of March, 2026. And if it's a Tuesday, tick, tick. You know the deal. It's maritime, tick, 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 tick. Matters. We encourage that if you're driving and tuning with us, please do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you are trying to get safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. Our sponsors for tonight's show are 101 Pharmacy and also Island Care Pharmacy. For all your medication needs, check out my little cuz, Shantia Heel McBride, and her lovely team at 101 Pharmacy in Nassau and Island Care Pharmacy up there in downtown Freeport. Fill your prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site 101pharmacy.com. That's 101 Pharmacy, all one word, all lowercase, .com. The three locations are East Street South, Charles Sanders Highway, and of course, Explorers Way, downtown Freeport. We are secondly sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. At BMC, we provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services. Good night, Auntie May. Auntie May. Boy, I tell you, my Auntie May, she's now 93 years old and still going strong. 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 Continue to do your thing, Auntie May. And keep moving toward that century, that big 100, that 3-digit number that most of us would never reach. But you're looking good, Annie, man. I know you're going to get there, girl. You just keep doing what you do. Tonight, we engage discussions on the disputes surrounding the naval blockade that is causing the fuel crisis in Cuba. We also want to address the actions necessary to realize an effective jet ski reform. We want to discuss the transport ferry boat that grounded and injured 8 people on the way to Great Stirrup Key. Right? We want to talk about the big game Bimini Marina. How they are projected to do little or nothing in this upcoming season starting April. Never had it so bad, they say. Even in the days back in the early 80s when I used to be docked. We never used to dock at big game. We used to dock. We used to dock at Blue Waters. Because Blue Waters had a nice dock right on the outside where we could just go there and get our fuel. The blue waters is our favorite spot. Big game is a little further up. They used to deal with a lot of big time yachts and whatnot. But big game is saying they ain't shabby, right? And I think they're saying that because why? Because the yachters are rejecting the hiking fees that the Bahamas levies nowadays. I think they're still levying it. I'm sure the government is looking to review that. And I thought it would have been reviewed by now, but apparently not, because those fellas, they still ain't budging to be coming this way like they used to. Something have to be done. And then, of course, we get the Samson Key court battle going on between us over here on the Key with the Tailgrass operation, I think it is, and Samson Key, where the Rosewood Hotel and Resort is about, well, we know if it's gonna happen, but we know that everything is in place for it to happen, except the court battle. The outcome of the court battle will determine what is what and what is what. So discussions surrounding these sort of topics should include the following: the U.S. policies and the U.S. blockade causing the people in Cuba to starve, among other things. So we want to talk about the January 29 White House executive order, which intensifies the blockade. You know, President Trump signs a lot of things. You know, he loves to sign those things. Well, he signed an executive order to say we're not going to allow anybody to bring fuel into Cuba. Now, of course, remember, first of all, Cuba used to get most of its imported fuel from Venezuela, because those who would have been around for a while would know that Fidel Castro and Raul Castro had a very, very close relationship with Venezuela. As Maduro and Chavez in particular, Chavez in particular. And that's long-standing. And Cuba relied on that fuel to keep everything powered up. But now, after the U.S. caused that operation to cease, Venezuelan oil ain't going nowhere right now. The U.S. decided we could sign an executive order to say, not only Venezuela, we don't want no country to be bringing fuel into Cuba. We don't care whoever you are. We can go up on tariffs and we can make your life miserable. So as a result, there is severe fuel shortages, prolonged blackouts, daily disruption of life being experienced in Cuba. Russian tankers are said to be en route. And, you know, they're not very large cruise carriers, or not cruise carriers, what do they call them? VLCCs, very large cruise carriers. Yeah. They're not very, very large ships. They are the general size tankers. Russia, of course, being the uncle or the daddy or the big brother of Cuba, doesn't like the idea. And then not only Russia, a lot of countries in the world don't like the idea. Even the Caribbean wanted to get together and get some supplies into Cuba, and supplies not only in the sense of food and that type of thing, but fuel, because you know, without fuel so much things could go wrong. We can talk about some details of this when we get to this later on tonight. We got the jet ski safety reform. There's a mandate by the U.S. Embassy. U.S. Embassy officials are calling for consistent enforcement of jet skis. They're also calling for beach patrols to be going on, and for the professionalism of the jet ski operators to be increased. They don't want the fellas out there looking raggy and shabby going all over the place soliciting, going out with the young girls on the bike, threatening them, and doing other things that are being reported by these young girls. No, American Embassy, you gotta remember, most of our tourists are Americans. And most of those reports go to the American officials. So whether these young girls telling fibs, or they were drunk and got taken advantage of, or whatever the case may have been, they are reporting it, eh? And it ain't looking good for our tourism industry. Especially at that nice new spanking building called the American Embassy with the new ambassador in place. They're now calling for action. Let's tighten up on this jet ski thing, man. Our people getting affected and me like that. So we have a jet ski task force that came into play a couple of years ago. How effective is this jet ski task force? Do they really know what needs to be done to bring this jet ski operation online? Should it go back to the New Providence Port Authority, imposing sanctions like suspension, imposing cancellations of jet ski registrations and that type of thing to bring them back to order? And some other things we can talk about later. But this jet ski thing needs to be really honest, and I know the port controller, the acting port controller, Senior Commander Brian Wright, has been saying that the vetting process has been improved, where they're diving deeper into the background of these people who are operating these jet skis and all the rest of that. But that's not enough, eh? I know that the port department have constant presence on the beach in those hot areas like Cable Beach, like Atlantis, Paradise Island, Cabbage Beach, and that type of thing. And other places like Long Wharf and all the rest of them, right? But mainly those two areas. How effective is that? We need to know. Because obviously the jet ski continues to be a problem for U.S. tourists. And it's incumbent upon us, by way of our jet ski regulations, our port department, our New Providence Port Authority, and the jet ski task force, if I don't know sure what their role is, but it's incumbent upon those collectives to ensure that these jet ski fellas are behaving in an orderly and professional manner, and there's no crime involved in what they're doing when they're out there in the line of duty, eh? We've had a boating accident. We had a grounding. What is a grounding? A grounding is when a vessel hits the bottom of the sea and stops. You know, vessels are not designed to, once they're underway, they be moving through the water. But if the water's shallow enough so that the bottom of the vessel can't pass over the bottom of the sea, then it strikes the bottom of the sea, or the bottom of the sea. Well, the bottom of the sea ain't gonna move, it's the boat moving. So it strikes the bottom of the sea, and that brings the vessel to a stop. And if you're standing or sitting, or whatever the case may be, you are liable, according to what the speed of that boat is, to be thrown, eh? It's just like if you hold sudden brakes in your car, or a plane, or anything that moves. Anytime you have to come to a crash stop or sudden stop, which is a grounding while the boat is, if the boat is underway, the boat have to be underway to ground, eh? Then, depending on the speed or movement of that vessel, it could be a mild jolt, or it could be a catastrophic throw. And in this case, boats were fast. I've been on those vessels going from Great Harbor Key to Great Stirrup Key and to Cocoa Key, and I can tell you, these are speed boats that they be hightailing, eh? And it's not dangerous what they're doing. because they're on open sea. Excuse me. They ain't making no wake to disturb no other boat. So it's fine as long as they navigate around those shallow, and we call it the flats. The flats will find you out. And if your draft is a little too deep for certain areas of the flats, you have to go around it. Because if you don't go around it, you'll be high to ground. And if you speeding when you become high to ground, people can get thrown off that speeding boat. Now, based on what I understand, nobody got thrown off the boat. But, you know, some of them back up and hit their ribs, and it was some major injuries. Well, minor injuries, because most of them were treated and returned to work. But it all happened because the vessel actually grounded on the flats. If that didn't happen, we wouldn't have been discussing this, eh? And what measures need to be in place to cause, in certain situations, vessels to not be as exposed to the risk of grounding is what we want to discuss tonight. That's too technical for everybody, because if it's too technical, let me know so we can leave that part out, right? We want to talk about the Big Game Marina. That's in Bimini. Big Game is the biggest marina in Bimini, eh? Well, it's the most active. I don't know if it's the biggest, because Resort World got with Mega Yacht Marina there. That perhaps bigger than Big Game, but prior to Resort World being established, Big Game was the big one in the Bimini chain, in the Bimini area, right? The other one would be, what's the name of the other one? Blue Water Marina. It's not as big as Big Game, but Big Game is the one where you got restaurant and bar, and you got a big ground area, a lot of rooms, hotel, little motel. Blue Water got a little thing up on the hill too, but they ain't kind of like Big Game. But very recently, Big Game has been having gross reductions in the bookings for the slips. A slip is a dock space where you're tie up. They call that a slip, eh? And they have been having a lot of empty slips, where they used to have half the slips full. Now they got not even 10% of them full or occupied. And we could talk about how that is impacting not only that marina, but Bimini in general. Because those marinas used to be really the big activity in Bimini as far as generating revenue. And then last but not least, we want to talk a little bit about the Rosewood Resort at Sampson Key in the Exuma Land and Sea Park. Things starting to come in, eh? Because it's a big court battle going on with the rich neighbor next door. The two rich mega money people are in court battling it out as to whether or not this commercial dock is a good idea to put at Sampson Key, because it's going to create disturbances, according to some reports. And then some other reports are saying it ain't going to create no disturbance because it's designed to be a cut with a dock. And if it ain't cause no disturbance, then why it cause disturbance now? But anyway, we talk a little bit about that. Some of y'all who live in the Exuma Keys, like Staniel, like Black Point, like Little Farmers, we hope that y'all are listening in, tuned in, and prepared to give us a little hail about the Sampson Key incident or Sampson Key dilemma, so that we can know how to move, right? So please, be sure to stay tuned as we delve into discussions on these maritime issues tonight. We're talking maritime, people. You are listening to Maritime Matters. At this point, we move to our first break. When we return, we should delve into further discussion surrounding these current maritime feats. Listen, people, you do not want to miss this one.
At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart. At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Maritime Tech Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. I am joined in studio by the great producer, Mr. Craig Gibson. We are discussing a variety of things. We want to talk about the blockade around Cuba that causing the Cubans to starve and suffer based on not being able to get fuel and food and all the rest of that stuff. We're talking about the jet ski safety reform mandate by the American Embassy. We're talking about the Great Star Key Wakers injured when the speedboat grounded trying to get them from Great Harbor Key to Great Star Key. We're talking about the projected zero for Big Game Marina in Bimini for the upcoming season. We think they can get some, but right now they ain't looking good, eh? We also want to talk about the Rosewood Sampson Key project, the commercial dock that they're putting there, and those are things that we want to discuss tonight. So, on this show, Maritime Matters, we talk maritime. And Maritime Matters airs weekly. That's every week at 17:05. 5:05 p.m. every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. The primary purpose of our show is to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector, first thing. And we also cover current maritime issues from the domestic and international maritime fields. We're doing domestic tonight, plenty domestic. The phone number to reach us, should you wish to get in on our discussion during the show, is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. To hear a replay of this show or any of our previous shows, simply hit us up at any time via our YouTube page. That's Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just go to YouTube on your electronic device and type into the search box Maritime Matters Bahamas. So let's talk maritime. Let's continue with our hot topics that we're engaging tonight, and we want to go into some more details when we talk about the U.S. policies surrounding the U.S. blockade causing starving, suffering in the nation of the largest island or country in the Caribbean, Cuba. And we said that at the end of January, President Trump in the White House signed an executive order that intensified a blockade around Cuba. So following the stoppage of Venezuelan oil to Cuba, the executive order basically directs that any country providing Cuba with fuel relief shall be faced with hiked U.S. tariffs. In other words, leave Cuba alone, because if you fool with Cuba, that means you're fooling with us. And if you're fooling with us, we got to put some tariff on you that you can't handle. And the U.S. is in that kind of position to do that to most countries in the world, if not all. Well, ain't no country really want that, because the U.S. have all this money, and most countries they want some of that. And they have arrangements by way of trading where they get some of that. So, for the past 3 months, Cuba received zero fuel as far as imports is concerned. Now, the good thing about it is Cuba have its own fuel, Cuba abstracts and makes some 60%, that's over half of the fuel it needs. So it's not really don't have no fuel at all, because it's getting fuel on a day-to-day basis, but the amount of fuel it gets is not able to sustain the demand for electricity. And so in that case, there's a severe fuel shortage, because even before this blockade, Cuba was having troubles with maintaining fuel on a 24-hour basis. There's periods where they just black you out, eh? I mean, from the 80s, they were doing that. They will have periods where they deliberately, they say to you in advance, you will only get so much hours per day, between such and such hours, that area you have no. And I think we did that in the Bahamas a couple of times too, eh? Especially when we call it load shedding. So Cuba's used to this stuff, but not to this extent. So they're having prolonged blackouts, and they have a lot of disruption in their daily life. The country's healthcare system is strained. Tens of thousands of patients are awaiting surgery, and it's backing up every day. And this includes a lot of children. So the surgeries cannot be conducted due to the shortage in electricity. You see, when you're doing surgery, you got certain monitoring equipment. You need certain lighting. You got some equipment that you're using that have to plug in. So surgeries today need that constant flow of power. If power kicks out on you in the middle of a surgery, the machine will go, cancel Christmas, because that one over, eh? So as a result of not having enough constant power, because now remember now, the hospitals, including Sierra Garcia, because that's a big hospital where the tourists go for quality, not so expensive services in Cuba. A lot of Bahamians go down there for surgeries and for treatments, eh? And I know, because I took my mommy down there on numerous occasions. So I know stranger to what's going on in Cuba with hospitals, particularly the Sierra Garcia. And so, because of this U.S. blockade, the healthcare system in Cuba, generally, you got local hospitals all over the place, little clinics, it's not a reliable source of electricity. So they gotta make sure when they're gonna do a surgery, they have power from start to finish. The water supplies in Cuba is being disrupted because water pumps rely on electricity to drive them. Anybody who got a water pump in their yard, we all know. You need electricity for that water pump. When current off, some of us don't have no water in the house, they'll current come back on. Well, you got a little bit in the tank, so when the tank comes low, filling up that tank, you ain't getting more pressure, so you gotta wait for current to come back on. Well, this is what's going on in Cuba with their water system, their main water system. And to that end, there's a halt in production. All the production activities where they produce things. They got farms where they reaping all kind of crops, but they don't have no fuel to put in the truck to take it to market. there's a problem with the radio towers not having power. So some of the radio stations can't, what do they call it? Promulgate, perpetuate, whatever, the transmission. The education, transportation system. Some children can't get to school. The bus system, some people can't get to work because there's no fuel for the bus. People coming into the airport and can't get taxi because the fuel situation is that dire in Cuba. So coming to the rescue, attempting to come to the rescue, is guess who? Father Russia. You know, Russia was communist and Cuba was getting assistance from Russia during the Cold War because the Americans shut them down. And America, not only the fact that Americans or the U.S. shut Cuba down, you know, the U.S. had tentacles so wide and long and deep, spread all over the place, that if another country other than Russia tried to assist Cuba, then they come in now and they can turn the bricks on that country. But see, Russia back then, it really was the USSR, right? It wasn't just Russia. This before President Reagan told President Gorbachev to tear down those walls. This is back in the day when Cuba was first, when Fidel and his crew first took over Cuba, and they got rid of the president at that time, who basically was in the hands of the U.S. authorities and making sure they were happy with whatever they wanted in Cuba. So when this happened, the U.S. decided, we cutting you all off. We have an embargo on you all. And from that day to this, that embargo remains. There were times when it was kind of relaxed. But then, depending on which government in power, or which U.S. administration is in power, that relaxation was suppressed again, and then relaxed again, and then it was intensified. All kind of things was going on, right? So we now in an era where President Trump and his Secretary of State, can't leave Mr. Marco Rubio out, are putting pressure on Cuba to say that we need that regime in Cuba to change. And you're going to suffer for a little while because we can make you all come to us and beg us. Boy, but those Cubans are resilient, eh? So we don't know how this thing will end up at the end of the day. But Russia got a couple tankers basically on the way to Cuba. And you know how these tankers go sometimes when they're doing something what they don't want the world to know. They turn off the AIS, the Automatic Identification System, which gives the name of the tanker, the country going to, the country coming from, the flag is registered, and they give all that information. They turn that off, so even though you pick them up on your radar, you ain't getting no information on them. Because they don't want you to know they're going to Cuba. But, you know, like everything else, the Brits already know. Because the Brits was tracking them from time they left up in the Baltics there to come through the English Channel. And when they came through the English Channel, they had a frigate escorting them, a Russian warship. So it was kind of sticking out like a sore thumb. Hey, where this one going? And then, you know, the Russian vessels they always say they have the dark fleet and the shadow fleet and all the rest of that they were actually stopping and taking and making sure they don't carry fuel because they don't want Russia to make that money off fuel. But apparently this one, they didn't stop. And it's on the way now. It then passed through the English Channel. It's in the Atlantic Ocean. And, you know, like everything else, when they get in the area near Cuba or approaching Cuba, the Coast Guard and the U.S. Navy will pick them up and decide whether or not they can let them through. So we don't even know at this point if those tankers are going to be allowed to enter Cuba. And then like, what part of Cuba they said it was? It wasn't in Havana, you know. It was like just to the east of Havana, about 100, 150 miles away. that's where they were starting to go, because I think that's where the big tankers go to bring large amount of fuel in Cuba. So that's the story on the Cuban fuel crisis. Anybody have anything to add to that or to take away from that? Feel free to call 326-8255 and let's have that discussion. Now we go to our jet skis safety reform mandate. According to the U.S. ambassador, we need to ensure on those beaches where we have those jet skis that are licensed or registered to operate around the tourists, need to make sure that they have consistent enforcement for safety. In other words, they shouldn't be left to do whatever they want to do. There should be some authority ensuring that these guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing, or these guys are not going out of the way and doing things they shouldn't be doing. Otherwise, we don't need them to be registered to do trade in a tourism environment out here on these beaches. The ambassador also called for beach patrols. I don't know where the ambassador get the information that, because beach patrols, you don't need to patrol the beaches, eh? And I'll tell you why I say that. Back in the day, while I worked at the port department, we had Jet Ski Association, what basically ran, call I see you on the line, I'll be in a minute. The Jet Ski Association ran a rotational system similar to what taxi call-up systems are. And the hotels had security officers that also were stationed on the beaches to ensure that the jet ski people and other vendors don't do too much harassment to their guests. So this is how, and I'll tell you how. Let me get to the call and get back to you. Calling on Maritime Matters. Thank you so much for calling.
Good afternoon, Captain Glenn, being the Venerable One.
Yes, sir. How are you? Good to hear you, man. You got me early today. I like that.
Yeah. Hey, Captain Ben, first when you were talking about Cuba and their lights-out situation with the fuel, right? In my mind, going back in the 70s in Eleuthera, when there were windmills driving water pumps that this water go up in a storage tank, and you didn't need no electricity for water. I mean, we moved away so far, we over the head, but we still moving backward though.
Yeah, we used to do gravity feed.
I mean, they have a big water tank on top of Blue Hill. This was like a couple of windmills right there, and thinking that tower, I think that could supply a good part of Nassau. You know, we got to be thinking like that. I mean, like, that's really, I mean, that's from the 70s, you know.
Yeah, that's like saying we ain't use no more calculators. We'll go back to adding things up. See, all the family islands had those windmills. I grew up on South Island.
Yeah.
But we used to call it gravity feed. The windmill will take the water up in a tank that you have erected high, and you'll have a gravity flow come into your building. Cuba still has some of that going on.
Yeah, but the pump itself actually, it had a function where you actually take the water on the ground and pump it up to that tower, you know. Or if it be like the windmill they be up on top of the hill, but those windmills when they run it, they powerful, man. They pump that water on the ground and think quick.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And they still have some of that in Cuba. I've been to Cuba a couple of times. They still have some of that in Cuba. But Cuba is, when you think about Havana as a first world country. Now remember, Cuba was leaps and bounds ahead of us. So you can imagine you Nassau, all these big hotels, because Cuba got plenty of big hotels and big apartment buildings, and you can't use that type of system to push water up to all them floors. You have to use a pump that use electricity power.
It all depends. If you have mountains, you like once the water weights on like the elevation, you know, and that's where you get gravity. But
that gravity field is strong enough to go up a couple floors.
No, don't say that. See, the distance from the tank on the size, the diameter of the pipe will determine how much water get there. Okay, so I mean, it's like once you have like, you break your system out and the size, because just like electricity, electricity, the more people on the system, the bigger the wires, and then you get like the system change like into 3-phase or single phase. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but when you turn on the shower and you're on the 10th floor in the Malia Hotel in Cuba, you want the shower to come out strong.
Man, hold on, man. If you build a system, you design systems to take an X amount of, like, say,
that's the reason why they use pumps for certain things. All over the world, even here in Nassau, do you know that water and sewage use a lot of pumps? And right now they're doing reverse osmosis, so it's even worse. They're taking the water from the sea, converting that to fresh water, and then sending it to us, right?
Yeah, but see, the whole system would be built on one level playing, and then you're looking at the system. I'm talking about, you're looking at basically, even if you ain't got like elevation, you building water towers and things, you building up the height thing, so that I don't care what side of your community may be, your towers, your pipe size will determine like how much water get there. And I mean, when you get into the residency, the pipes break down to each home. And I mean, like,
that's for single story. Because I can tell you, I have a split level apartment building, and the water from water and sewage could never be strong enough to take care of the top floor. No, but I talking about water and sewage have pressure.
Yeah, but any system design, once you design any system, like say based on population or whatever, right? You can determine if your pipe got to be 4 foot wide to get to the community, and then you're breaking it down to 2 foot, 1 foot, 6 inch, 1 inch, half inch, and that's how the whole system works. And you work on, like, to say how many persons you have, like, basically, or persons you would say using the system. You see what I'm saying? And you look at the maximum, like output time, or to say the maximum or the person's use at one time, and you determine like what you need as a capacity to handle it. And I mean, if we plan our system, we can build all our systems that way, and run off natural.
Well, I agree with you up to a point, right? But I'm still saying that cannot be compatible with the fact that, like, what I had to do, I had to actually have a pressure tank along with a pump that is pulling the water. You got a submersible pump, right? Yeah. Well, in the case if you're on a little hill or something like that, and you, if you want enough pressure for your tenants, what you saying, if you want a single floor, that can work, and that'd probably be as effective as you need it to be. But when you start going up, for that pressure to go up in that building, after then come down, it's just going to be very difficult. But anything is possible. But I mean, the technology we move in our country like they move in all countries for easement of quality water, quality electricity, and all the rest of that. And like you say, we got to go back to wind. We got to go back to solar.
Okay, and another thing, in the day when we used to build homes, right? In the homes, like today, right now, when we build a home, we put our water heaters. The water heaters will be on the floor. They're a bathroom there, and this and that. But you know what? In the 70s and 60s, when they build a home and they got a water heater, but they never installing a water heater.
You put it on the roof, but they're still doing that sometimes.
Up in the ceiling, but it's
hot.
They had leaks and stuff, so people let's say, well, okay, we can put it on the same floor, but the ideal place to put that heater would be in the ceiling, to put your water tank up in the ceiling, so that when it comes time, like you say, that the water's turned off, you will fill up water there to come down to supply your home. And the same principle will apply to for a whole town. You see, there's all this planning, man. You don't plan nothing.
Yeah, but Cuba have moved. Cuba back in the 50s. Where we are now, Cuba was there in the 50s, right?
Yeah, I know.
So they had moved away from the traditional using the windmills and all the rest of that to using power. You remember nowadays getting fuel cheap. They make a lot of their own. They abstract a lot of their own fuel, and then they was in bed with Venezuela, where they was getting fuel for far cheaper than we would get it from Venezuela. So they basically built space on what they had in place.
Yeah.
And now that the rug get pulled from under their leg, they may have to resort to what you're talking about, but all that takes time.
Yeah.
Right now they're suffering.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Bain, in reference to, you said you were talking about those jet skis, right?
Yeah.
And they basically American ambassador. I think we got an ambassador, and I think it's about because they're on an ambassador. These two just some things and just keep on going on and on and on and on and on. And like you can't really correct nothing because as long as politics running things, politics cover what they want to cover up and move on, and they have that since then. But in reference to those jet skis, like that, there's a location there by Goodman's Bay, right?
Yeah. That's Cable Beach, yeah.
Yeah, Cable Beach, right? Looking at it, now you have these jet skis, they occupy, like last year, it was like basically a third of the beach, right?
Mm.
And then it's like public beach, right? For the hotel to operate. And right now, the encroachment is like, or annexation is like, half of the beach is basically, you got tents up and chairs, lounges, piles of I guess they haven't changed the trees at night, whatever. But that infringement of like to say a public beach, when the Bahamians can't actually go in the hotel and their property to use their beach unless they're a guest, right?
Mm.
There will be security will actually them off of the property. Am I wrong?
Well, the security for the various resorts,
yeah,
they work along with the port department officials because they have security on the beach as well.
Yeah.
And
but what I'm saying is the mere fact that the Bahamians, like you say, on the holiday pop up now, right?
Yeah.
The Bahamians wouldn't want to go on the beach, right? And they say, well, okay, all beaches are public beach, basically to the water line, right? But at hotels, if the Bahamians, like you say, will influx those beaches and be on those beaches, you see a lot of police cars and a lot of security trying to get the Bahamians off their property and off that beach, right?
No, they don't do that. I spend plenty of time jogging the beach and
okay, but you think it's fair that like Goodman's Bay at its present state, I'm talking about, I guess, the takeover, because I never really know that there was any notice in the papers or anything to verify or to say that the Goodman's Bay is now sold to. That, I guess that's which property is there?
Oh, you mean the Goldwyn?
No, then open up that next part of the equation. Like put in that's when the next part of the take away and make up Goodman's Bay. Because when that 10-story or 9-story, 10-story building that's been put there, when they have the occupancy of that, or people are there, and the beach they have there, that beach ain't adequate for what they got there. They will automatically take that half of the beach. So where?
No, they're not. Nobody could take. See, when you go in certain parts of Mexico, all you could see is heads in the water. We have enough space on that beach. You know how long Goodman's Bay is? You ever tried to jog Goodman's Bay Beach?
Stop that. No, you say no long Goodman's Bay is.
No, I'm just telling you, Goodman's Bay have a lot. That's you know, if you was to jog from that wall by Goodman's Bay, all the way up to Bahamas, you could come all the way back past Goldwyn. Go all the way another mile that way. I used to jog the beach on a regular, and that ain't no way Goldwyn people ain't no way those resorts out there will ever be able to fill that long stretch of beach.
Yeah, but you gotta understand when you pass in these the beachfront property of the hotel, right?
Mm.
That's man like security. You realize that, right?
No, they I remember now. Most of those hotels you cannot own anything within 50 foot of the high water mark, right? Yeah. So you will see that if they have a wall, their wall is way back from the water.
Yeah.
Now that area where they put those beach, those chairs and stuff for their people to lay out and sit, that there's nothing to stop any Bahamian from going up once they don't go beyond 50 foot of the high water mark. Now, if you're soliciting, that's a different story, because you have no rights to go to soliciting. But that's why we need to make sure these jet ski people are properly regulated. Because when I was in the port and we used to go there, they had the association used to regulate them, right? Plus we would accept reports from the security of the hotel, and if they do something, the security right that one of them was up there doing something that they were out of line from the procedures, then we used to stop them from going out there by way of suspending their registration. And when the end of the year come and they want to renew their registration, we used to tell them, no, but you always doing all this set can't renew. And they start paying attention after that. And we start putting them in court for doing certain things, right? So we just need like the ambassador is saying, we need to properly monitor these guys, right? We need to enforce certain professionalism and all the rest of that pertaining to this jet ski operators. We want them to operate and make money, But we shouldn't sit by and allow them to make a menace and harass and being accused for raping the young girls and whatnot. Man, there ain't nothing much we can do with that, but we need to follow up on it, And if we're getting those complaints, only the court can say whether it happened or not. But at the end of the day, if that happened, we need to make sure that person and the owner of that bike and the bike itself is being pulled out of the system, so the others can understand when you do this, you ain't gonna be able to come over here and solicit.
Hey, but like the same Goodness Bay area still, am I right? Now, the jet ski operators, they have their posts there, right, and the whole lot of jet skis moving in and out, right, at that particular point, right? But now, looking at swimmers, right? I don't see no safety buoys out there or the thing like a net, or they have it'd be like a boundary where swimmers or the jet skis cannot cross over, because that's where people are allocated to be swimming. Yeah,
but that's where the enforcement comes. And see, the law provide, under the Water Skiing and Motorboat Control Act, the law provide that no vessel should be operating within 200 feet of land, anywhere in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Right? And if you go
all over the place, though?
Yeah, but if you go operate within 200 feet of land, you should not be doing more than 3 miles per hour.
No, man.
I'm telling you what the law requires. I'm telling you what they do, because they violate that law.
Okay.
But that's why the enforcement of that law needs to come into play. Yes, we used to have swim line at Goodman's Bay. Yes, we have to do all those resorts used to have their own swim line, and because remember they used to water ski and stuff out there back in the day. I think you was around in them days, right?
Yeah.
So
they need to put feet now for the safety of swimmers and the public in general who go to use those waters, right? They need to put that safety net there. At least about one time ago, they have like a shark net, so the shark will never come across. No,
they never. Those nets never went straight to the bottom. They only was on the surface of the water. Okay. So that couldn't stop no shark from coming in. People might think that.
They had the ones who go to the bottom, man.
No, sir. The only thing went to the bottom was the weights were all in them.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, but there ain't no net was between the weights. You had a weight every 10 feet or so. You had a piece of that line going to the bottom to hold the weight and the buoys on the top. But there was never anything to stop a fish or shark from coming through.
Man, I remember.
I used to put them down. It was the port department. It was my job to make sure they was in place. So I had to order them. I tell you what they were.
Like up running that thing, No, man.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the 70s, man.
Well,
they had there, like we used to run from out by that's from H&S, right? That's from JFK school then, right? And when we used to go run out there and then go in the water, they had like the net that goes, because they had like the shark thing, and the shark was like, at least they had like holes in a couple places, right? But they had the net that goes straight to the water. I don't know if it was changed like after a few years or whatever, but I remember first they had the shark net out there.
Okay, well, I've never seen it. Like I say, when I was working there, we just had weights going down. We never had no net. We just had a swim line. It was a line actually, and every 10 feet or so, we had a line with the buoys on top, and every 10 feet or so, you had a line going down with a little weight on it to hold it in place.
Yeah.
But you might be right back in the 70s, because I graduated from school in 79. I never used to be troubling Goodman's Bay thing back then, right?
So what school you went to, Captain Man?
I was a Pacer man, Pacer Nation, R.M. Bailey.
R.M. Bailey? You couldn't even go to no beach then. R.M. Bailey had no beach.
You're right. We had the mermaid pool though.
Well, I try to make friends with people like CC and all them.
So you used to go to CC, so you trying to say you used to play ball, you always used to run to the beach and things like that. You was on the basketball team, eh?
No, that's on my beach. At least, man, hold on, man. That's a JFK used to run to the beach. You had like a fee, right?
Okay.
And I opted out of that because I used to have asthma thing, man. I don't know about asthma, man.
Man, you only had no real basketball team. No, man. The Pacers was the team. We used to beat everybody.
Yeah?
Yeah, in my days anyway.
Yeah, but let me show you something then. Okay. even though I never go run out there on the beach, right? Let me tell you something. One of the PE sessions, right? I said to my head, right, I go run, I go out there to run, and I go out there and run, and guess what? In my mind, I say, I to beat all these people, you know. Guess what? When did I do that?
Oh, you did?
Yeah, everybody going there. Boy, it's coming back, I didn't even make it back, man. It's a break up.
Yeah, you buying yourself out.
No, man, all I muscles, the thing was all crying up and ring, man.
Yeah, you buying yourself out. I used to run marathons. The first 13 miles, I always was hot, right? But that last 6 miles,
killer.
Anybody who's run marathon can tell you, after you done hit that wall, boy, you in trouble.
Killer.
Yeah. But hey, thanks for calling again, man. And I understand what you're saying, and what you're saying makes sense. But we just need to make sure, these guys, we can't let them shoot their own self in the foot, man. We want them to make money, and there's make money. But at the same time, you don't come out there to smoke your grass. You don't come out there to go and try a whole lot no young girls. Try to protect your money being made, because money out there to make. So that's all the ambassador said. And the ambassador shouldn't have to say that. Our authorities should be saying that.
Yeah. And then even in that, like when these things do happen and things, like it's supposed to be able to see, some kind of punishment or whatever, and it should be quick and it should be public.
Yeah, the best punishment that we utilized back in the day was, like I said, to either suspend. See, because if you can't come out there with your bike no more, you can't make no more money, you can't even be out there. Because we monitoring that. Defense Force pull up in their patrol boat to give assistance to the port officer on the beach, and he would tell them this one shouldn't be a dam, and then they pull the bikes. See, we used to do that back in the day, and we need to get back to that, and then we need to get back. Well, I'm not sure how effective they doing it now, because if they was doing it effective, all these things, I just see when I go, they shouldn't be in place.
Yeah.
Right. So it suggests to me that they need to pay more attention to it. And help these fellas to help themselves.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but always good to hear your voice, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man. You keep Captain Ben.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, man. All right.
Wonderful call. Yes, and as I was saying, and again, the number to call is 326-8255 if you want in on discussion. I think the best approach would be to galvanize all those interested in concert. What we used to do is we used to have meetings at the hotel. Okay, when I first got about this, called it the Gaza Strip. I mean, it was like total chaos, right? And I always remember a particular chairman. Well, we had Robert Sweeting first, and he really was trying to do what he could do to try to get it organized. And then this lady came in, Miss Daphne Duncombe. She came in, Duncombe Cooper, and she came in. And when she came in, she really grabbed that thing, and she made a tremendous impact. Because she always called on me to give her a hand and with the law say and this and that. And when she had meetings, she always made sure I went with her, and a couple of the board members went with her. We met with the hotel operators, hotel security heads. We had the jet ski people in the meeting, so that they could understand we trying to put these things in place to help them. And the Jet Ski Association started to cooperate, and they would give us reports of people who messing up the system because they wanted it to work. Because you get 90% of them are good people. But then that 10% who ain't trying to be good, they trying to renegade, they could be a mess. So we weeded them out. And then the system started to really come around. And we empowered the security from the hotel to write reports when things go wrong. And we'll call those people in front of the board, and they would be suspended or they'll be cancelled, and they'll no longer be able to go there. Because the association made sure anybody out there, their bikes were currently registered. So I think that's the way it needs to go back to, right? But you need to have what you call penetration tests, where the defense force may be along with a policeman and a senior person from the port department, like Brother Curtis, like D.I. Curtis, Craig Curtis, or even Brian Wright himself, would go and do penetration tests where let's pull up on the beach, and if they find anything wrong, that officer who they have out there to monitor things would catch some help. Why this happening on your watch? You're supposed to make sure that was in place or that was in place. And that's where you get the credibility. That's where you enforce professionalism. And this is where we need to go. I mean, this is our bread and butter tourism. There's no reason why we can't get this right. If they could get it right in Florida, we could get it right in the Bahamas. We just need to do some of the things that it takes to ensure, just like how we arrested the situation with ISPS compliance within the Bahamas, and we did the ISPS compliance unit and the Port Department, who's a designated authority, did a super job. After we were threatened by the U.S. Coast Guard that they may shut us down as far as not allowing ships to return to the U.S. that leave our ports, we had to do it. And guess what? Today, we see the results. Everything is ticking and talking. So, ladies and gentlemen, we could do the same thing with jet skis. Oh boy, time didn't run out. Time almost run out. So, we have discussed the Cuban crisis. We have discussed the jet ski reform mandate and how we could go about doing this. Now, we want to come back after this break and talk about the injured people on that boat that went aground. We want to talk about the situation at the Big Game Marina. And we can talk very briefly about the Samson Key Project commercial dock. You are listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Every Tuesday, 5 p.m. to 6:30. And guess what? My producer is Mr. Craig Gibson. And we got another 20 minutes with you tonight.
At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart. At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection.
Sitting in the morning sun.
You are listening to Maritime Tick, 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 Tick Matters. Time is winding down. Tonight, we're discussing numerous topics. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain, joined in studio by Mr. Craig Gibson, the engineer extraordinaire. We have been discussing current maritime issues in the domestic field. Now we have the one with Cuba. Cuba ain't domestic, but it's close enough. We had the blockade on Cuba causing all kind of difficulty. As far as people in Cuba starving because they ain't getting enough food no more. They're having a fuel shortage, so people who got to go on operation in hospitals have to, take long waits because the power keep cutting down, and if they ain't got no fuel for the generator at the hospital, they have to wait some time, and this and that and that. The radio communication towers, the transportation system with all the buses, there's a lot of stuff going wrong with this power disruption, or this lack or diminishing of having fuel available, whether you have money or not. And they say some warships a warship was escorting 1 or 2 tankers that left Russia to go to Cuba, and we're going to see how that pan out. Hopefully the US would allow them to get in. If they don't, then Cuba will continue along that path of sufferation. Is that a word? Somebody called me and asked if I could say that. Suffering. Let me use that one, right? So we talk a little bit about the jet ski safety reform mandate, right? And I had a call, and my good friend called in, and he was talking about how, we were talking about how the jet ski need to be monitored, enforced, disciplined, to the extent that, they're offering a professional service in a professional way, and everything is going cozy as opposed to all the negative feedbacks we're getting from jet ski operators today. We have a situation where a vessel was hightailing. Don't play any speed, because they always do play any speed. I've been on some of those boats leaving Bullock's Harbor Dock and going to either Great Stirrup Key or Little Stirrup Key. A lot of people don't know Coco Key used to be Little Stirrup Key, right? So you're going to one of those keys because the Bahamian workers, most of them live in Great Stirrup Key or Great Harbor Key. They live in Great Harbor Key. They live in Bullock's Harbor, right? The Berry Islands. And they only go there for work. So they go on a daily basis in the morning, and sometimes they do midday runs, sometimes they do like 3 runs a day, 4 runs a day. But these runs, because you can do anywhere between 8 to 10 miles to get from point A to point B. You're not going to do that doing 10 knots, eh? Because that could take you a whole hour. At 10 knots, how much? 6. You only cover 6 miles. That's almost 2 hours. So they use these high-speed vessels to do that shuttle. And these high-speed vessels, they be doing like 40, 45, 50 miles per hour. With everybody on them, eh? So if they hit, you can imagine you're in a car going at 40 or 50 miles per hour, and you hit one stump in the road, or let's say you run off the road and you run up on one tree stump that's hole at the bottom of the car, and you stop suddenly. Yes, you're going to have to brake. Same thing with these vessels. If they hit the bottom of the sea because they're on the flats and they have too much draft and the boat can't clear because tide low, that means that boat is going to come to an abrupt halt. And when that happens, people get injured. Eh? So that happened. And part of the reason why it happened on this occasion was because, the time changed. And so they had a little rain mixed up with the dark. And the captain, he noticed route out he had. He always doing it. But if you can't see properly, and you got to go around those flats and between some of those flats, because that's what they have to do. If I had a job of doing that speed and taking a boat from Bullock's Harbor to Great Stirrup Key or Coco Key, and I don't do that on a regular basis, and that boat will be ground in no time, eh? So these guys know their local waters, so they know. But you have to be able to see. You have to do this eyeball navigation. Using a radar to see, take a fix and see when to make it. No. This eyeball navigation at high speed. So if it's raining and you can hardly see, or if it get dark and you can't see the coloration of the water to see where the bank start or where the shallow, and you liable to run aground. And that's exactly what happened. So it ain't nobody's fault really, right? Because they did it before, but it just so happened that they were taking that big risk. And based on information I got today from a very good friend of mine, gave me the information today, that they have made the adjustment so that that shuttle run will no longer be done unless it's daylight and the captain could do his eyeball navigation. So we could expect that the adjustment would minimize the opportunity significantly, so that we may not be faced with people getting injured in future transfers, because it happened. I never heard about it happening before, but obviously it just happened, so we need to pay attention, and apparently they made the adjustment, right? And it was 1 Bahamian and 7 expats. You know, a question came to my mind. So why you get 7 expats working on a key in the Bahamas? What kind of work they did that we can't have Bahamians doing that job? And of course I got my answer. And I was happy to hear that those expat people who are working on the dock that they are now building so the cruise ship could stop, drop an anchor, and come into port. One side of the dock is finished, is complete, I understand, but the next side they're still working on. So that's quite understandable. These guys, these men that were injured do not work for Great Stirrup Key. They work for the contracting company that is building the dock at Great Stirrup Key. So of course they got to live in Great Harbor Key in order to commute to Great Stirrup Key when it's time to work. And they're working on a 24-hour shift, I understand, because they're really trying to get that dock finished. And in that case, that's part of the reason why they were actually going there early in the morning before daylight, as opposed to waiting till daylight. So the adjustment has been made. We shouldn't be faced with that anymore. 326-8255 is the number to call. We got another 10-15 minutes, so please, if you want in on the discussion, like this Great Harbor Key situation, where the boat was going to Great Stirrup Key, and seven people got injured, and everybody, I guess, except the captain got injured, eh? Because you know, when you're the captain of a boat, a speedboat like that, you usually right at the console, and you could hold the wheel if you run aground, or your body just go into the steering console, and you don't get thrown too far. But the rest of them who just sitting around, and this ain't like no car where you get a seat belt, eh? You don't do seat belt to do the kind of. Now maybe they can look into getting seat belt. That might be a good idea, but I don't know. That ain't something they normally would do, right? So they got injured. Now we move on to the big game marina situation. And the operators of the big game marina are saying that the projection for the upcoming season ain't looking good. They use the term zero, but I don't like zero. Zero means nilch, means nothing, right? I think they may get 1 or 2. So let's just say the big game marina has a gross reduction in boat bookings for their slips, and this is stemming from the hike in pleasure yacht entry fees that the government imposed last year. Fishing permits, that type of thing. Anchorage, you got to pay the anchor and all the rest of that stuff. That the government say that, we're revising that and we can do something with that. But apparently it's still going on. And the yachters, the American pleasure yachtmen, are basically showing their protest by not coming. Some people may have money, but they don't like to feel like you gouging them. Like me. I may have a couple dollars, but if you look like you trying to swing me, I ain't touching it. I don't want nothing to do with it. Because I don't believe that should be happening. Just because I get a couple dollars, I ask you to do some plumbing work, and you want to charge me twice the amount. Oh, money, got money, charge them anything. No, I don't believe in that. So I think these people have a very similar outlook on whether they come into the Bahamas. They say, man, if their government will extort prices to get money out of us, I need to go there, man. I stay in Florida, right? And we had a lot of talks about whether we allow them to fish and this and that and the next and all the rest of that stuff. I remember I had a whole show on that, right? Because I don't think they should be allowed to fish. Don't sell them no fishing permit. If they want fish, buy it from Bahamians. Bahamians can go out there and get whatever fish they want. Fresh. We don't want them to have no fish in their freezer. The only fish you're allowed to have on board, so we may allow you to fish up to having fresh fish that you prepared to cook that day. But don't put no fish in the freezer talking about I can cook this next week. We ain't playing that. So we ain't giving you no fishing permit to begin with. We can make you, we can let you come in there free. We need you to charge you to pay regular custom and immigration, just like you pay when you come to the airport. But We ain't trying to cause you to want to turn away because you want your own private boat. We can make you pay to come in our country. Because if you and your family came through the airport, you wouldn't have to pay that levy be putting on you. So what we can do is we can put a little levy on you now for the environmental protection. Because if you in your own boat, when you flush them toilet again in our sea, right? When you're ready to empty your garbage, we can make sure you're putting them in the right place. So we may put an environmental levy so that we can keep the waters clean, pure, and pristine, so you could keep wanting to come and enjoy our waters. But we ain't want you go there fishing in, like, you know, you try to fully freeze us to carry back home. No, we ain't into that. All that's supposed to cut out. So what the big game is saying here is, if the slips don't have no vessels, then the rooms are not booked. Because a lot of these people come on their boat, some come in speedboat. So when they reach, they want a hotel room right there where the boat is. And they go out in their boat all day, and then at night come, they want to turn on the AC and lay out and watch TV, CNN, and these network channels and stuff. They want to be like they're home. Because their boat too small for that. And some of these sailboats don't have enough power for that. They ain't got no air conditioning. But they got enough money so that they can just book a room while they're there. And that's all they want. But they ain't coming because that big fuse levy and that, and they say they ain't for that. So now the hotel rooms in the big game ain't getting booked. And then the same people, when they get in for the night, they leave in their boat and they come in the shore to go in the restaurant because they ain't really into no cooking. They trying to relax. And they get into the bar to have their drinks on time. Yeah, they got drinks on their boat, but guess what? They want to be in an environment where they could be to the bar, they could be watching sports, they could be doing that. So all of this is being impacted because the amount of money the government put on these people just to visit our country, they are protesting silently. They're protesting by not coming. So all them people who's making money from waking the bar and big game, changing the rooms, they ain't got no job now. There ain't nothing for them to do. And resort making less money. And the marina empty. So we say to our government, please, Mr. Government, let's make this thing happen sooner than later. Eh? You say you could do it, well, we say election will be this year. We won't wait till election come for you to do it. We want you to do it now. And when election come, it come. I mean, be a good thing to assist with people saying, oh, we can give the government some more votes because they stop these vessels, but they allow them to come back. Or if it ain't happening entirely, they may say, boy, the government causing our marinas on these other islands and stuff to be empty. We ain't checking for them. We don't know. But the reality is, it's good for our country to have these people coming here. Just like we spend all the money to let them come to the airport, man, allow them to come in without feeling like they're being gouged or being taken advantage of because they're on their own boat and you're trying to tax them to pieces or put levies on them where it's unreasonable, especially when you compare them with other countries in the region, right? So let's get with it, Mr. Government. Let's do this. Last but not least, my goodness, time gone. Rosewood Sampson Key Project. Again, the number to call 326-8255. We have anybody in Nassau listening to this show from the Exuma Keys? Because I know you all have some say. See, we need to hear from some people who this Sampson Key Project, this Rosewood Hotel, would impact if it goes there. Would it impact them negatively? Would it impact them positively? How is it going to impact their families over there? Would it give them an opportunity to go back home in the Keys so that they know they have a steady job now? You know, these are things we got to look at when you're talking about development and anchor projects. So there's a court battle being done over the safe and navigable shipping channel for a commercial dock, because While the outcome of the court case remains incomplete, I mean, they ain't conclude on it yet as to what side the court favors. A tug and barge came in and they offloaded some commercial supplies. And the protesters of this project started to scream out, "Hey, what's going on here? What y'all doing bringing things in here commercially and y'all ain't get a green light yet?" Excuse me. But reportedly, the people from Samson Key or the Rosewood Integral Group or the Miami, whatever the case may be, they rebutted that these things are being bought here just to store on our key. We're not going to be doing no work until the court case finish. And if the court case, if we can't put them out, then these things will have to go back. But we only storing them here. So what you making noise for? Well, you know how that goes. Big money people like to talk. Excuse me. The question is that channel deep enough for the necessary maneuvers of tugs and barges bringing things in on a commercial scale? According to the protesters, it's not big enough. It's not deep enough. It's not wide enough. And if they're going to dredge it, it's going to change the landscape and cause some other things further down to happen that shouldn't be happening when it comes to tidal currents and that type of thing, right? But the rebuttal by the Rosewood Resort reps is saying that, look, we don't need to dredge. We don't need to dredge to cause no changes in the tidal flow and the current and this and that and the next. Because our barge is going to be flat bottom. So it don't need no deep water for the barge to come into the dock. And they do have flat bottom shallow water barges. So we don't know whether that's here or not. At the end of the day, we got to wait and see what the court does. We need to see whether this Rosewood Resort will go on in Samson Key, so that the Stanley Key and the Black Point and the Little Farmers Key people can say, we got a hotel resort we could wait to. And people out of Nassau and Freeport and Eleuthera and Cat Island and mainland Exuma, if you got a resort the size they talking about, you can need a lot of hands, eh? And they have to find residency in Stanley Key, in Black Point. Well, Farmers Key a little far, but even in Farmers Key, eh, they got to find some place to live, because the hotel ain't gonna be able to keep everybody there who wicked. You probably got to commute, just like God, he said, was commuting in, from Great Harbor Key to Great Stirrup Key and Cocoa Key. You may have to be commuting from Black Point, commuting from Stanley Key. But if you got to go all the way from Farmers Key, you go far. But you never know. People from Farmers Key may be commuting on a daily basis to get to and from their work. So we got to look at all that, and we'll watch how this court case goes. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, our time is fresh out for the night. Don't look like nobody wanted to call us at the last minute, but we had a good call, very good call tonight. I trust that the information that you would have attained or received from our show tonight would have been helpful, would have been insightful, would have been educational, and all the rest of that we intend to be. I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, and of course, Island Care Pharmacy up there in Freeport, and 101 Pharmacy here in Nassau. I want to thank my producer, Mr. Craig Gibson. I want to thank all you listeners for continuing to listen to Maritime Matters. I want to say good night to my good old Annie Mae. I want to thank my one special caller. And if you want to listen or replay of the show just hit us up on YouTube, Maritime Matters Bahamas, and you will get a litany of all our shows. Again, we thank you for listening. I am Captain Glenn Bain, and Maritime Matters, tick, 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 out.
Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay. I've had nothing to live for. Look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of